today. They say it's peace, but the pockets still cry. Yes, the leaders are smiling, the streets are complaining, and the price of bread just flew away. Hey, hey, wake up, Zimbabwe.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's Zimwaves TV Evening News. The only news bulletin where Zimbabwe's political reality is served with the honesty of a street vendor, the precision of a forensic audit, and the emotional turbulence of a telenovela filmed in a collapsing economy. Tonight, you need to sit down, breathe in, and maybe hold on to someone you trust, because Zimbabwe's military, politics, diplomacy, entertainment, agriculture, football, and even your vegetables are all in crisis at the same time. And no, this is not an exaggeration. The country is a pressure cooker, the heat is rising, and the person holding the lid is pretending the stove is off. We start where the nation's heartbeat thumps the loudest, the military succession battle. General Phillip Valerio Sibanda, the quiet, disciplined man who has held the Zimbabwe Defence Forces together since the 2017 coup, is officially stepping down on November 23. His contract, already stretched beyond the legal retirement age, expires, and the ceremony is scheduled for the 24th. But ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony is not the headline. The headline is the fear simmering inside ZANU PF's core, because when a general lives in Zimbabwe, it's not just a job changing hands. It's the entire balance of political power being recalculated like a dangerous mathematics exam where one wrong step causes an explosion. General Sibanda could be elevated to vice president, but only if Mnangagwa removes Chiwenga or Mohadi. Yes, imagine trying to fire the men who put you in power. Imagine walking into a room and telling Chiwenga his services are no longer required. This is not a retirement. This is Russian roulette with uniforms on. Meanwhile, Lieutenant General Emmanuel Matatu should logically take over, but he is older than the Constitution allows, and his bonds are already in pension mode. That leaves Major General Walter Tafumane, fresh from the CIO, and Gacha Mazitulela, a chemical scientist who somehow keeps orbiting the presidency like a character waiting for his final review. Pause. Feel the suspense, because whoever becomes commander will control not only the barracks, but the succession chessboard, the 2027 Congress, and the 2028 elections. Zimbabwe's future is being negotiated behind closed military doors, quietly, nervously, and with stakes higher than the Kariba demo. And just when you think the political drama is enough, across town, Mwonzora's faction of the MDC is swinging machetes at police officers. Yes, the same party that claims to uphold the rule of law is now trending for allegedly attacking officers at Harvest House. 4 were arrested. Bail is being opposed, and Mwonzora himself, who is both politician and lawyer, is claiming he is being targeted for standing up to Chinese influence. Zimbabwean politics has no genre. It is not comedy. It is not horror. It is not action. It is a hybrid monster of all three. Meanwhile, Harare International Airport had a different kind of meltdown. President Hakainde Hichilema flew in for the first official visit to Zimbabwe since taking office, and suddenly the red carpet was rolled so fast you would think ZANU PF had just discovered diplomacy yesterday. 5 MoUs were signed: agriculture, immigration, diplomatic training, labor, youth development, but beneath the smiles there was a tension you could slice with a butter knife. because while HH was talking regional cooperation, ZANU PF leaders in Highfields were chanting the new gospel, Mnangagwa must stay beyond 2028. Nothing captures Zimbabwe's political schizophrenia like the president preaching progress while his party simultaneously campaigns for a constitutional extension. In Highfields, Massimirembwa stood up and said development cannot stop. Hungwe warned Harare not to derail national progress. And Tagwire, the man with metaphors sharper than fuel queues, said Mnangagwa is a scoring striker who must not be substituted. But the real joke is this: Zimbabweans are being asked to vote for continuity after 44 years of continuity. Even broken robots at Mbare Musika have more consistency than the promises being repeated today. What made this worse was the threatening of Highfields residents by these politicians. The politicians warned the residents of Highfields not to vote no if a referendum was called for the extension of Mnangagwa's term to 2030. As the term extension choir sang, Zimbabwe was busy signaling global aviation agreements at ICAN 2025 in the Dominican Republic, airspace expansions, bilateral routes, increased connectivity. Beautiful dreams indeed, but the ordinary Zimbabwean can barely afford combi fares, let alone international flights. Still, the government says cheaper air travel is coming. Who believe it the day a Zimbabwean family spontaneously flies to Vic Falls for the weekend without selling their furniture? Back on home soil, Plumtree Town Council announced the most Zimbabwean bylaw in the history of Zimbabwean bylaws: a ban on using human waste to grow vegetables. Ladies and gentlemen, why was this ever a thing? Imagine a councillor walking up, going to the office and drafting a clause that says no person shall use human waste to grow tomatoes. That alone tells you the state of the country's water systems, sanitation and survival tactics. The bylaw now empowers inspectors to slash illegal sewage-fed gardens. Zimbabwe is a land of resilience and creativity, but we have officially crossed the line into dystopian agriculture. And speaking of the public imagination running wild, Tererai Mugwadi is fighting back against rumors that she needs rehab. Social media has been diagnosing her like they have medical degrees, and she told H Metro to leave her alone unless they are psychologists with actual evidence. She says she's fine, she's improving herself, and she's working every day in the CBD. Whether the nation agrees or not, the point remains: Zimbabweans will always analyze your life harder than they analyze their own electricity bill. From Zimbabwe's drama, we jump to South Africa, where a plane carrying 153 Palestinians was held at OR Tambo Airport for 12 hours because Israel refused to stamp their passports. Gift of the givers had to step in. Humanitarian groups mobilized, and South Africa's government said the passengers were admitted out of compassion.
Yesterday we had a plane of 160, we're carrying 160 Palestinians landing at OR Tambo. And these are people from Gaza who somehow mysteriously were put on a plane that passed by Nairobi and came here. And I got to hear about it from my Minister of Home Affairs, wanting to know what do we do now. And I said, we cannot turn them back. Even though they do not have the necessary documents and papers, these are people from a strife-torn, a war-torn country. And out of compassion, out of empathy, we must receive them and be able to deal with the situation that they are facing. And it does seem like they were being, flushed out. We will get the details later. but from a humanitarian point of view, we could not return them from whence they have come, and we had to accept them, and they are now here, and we are going to be processing everything about them and then deciding precisely what needs to be done.
The world is witnessing tragedies layered on tragedies, and the suffering of Palestinians continue to spill across borders, paperwork, and political systems. In a related story, Operation Dudula had earlier protested at the airport, demanding that the Home Affairs not allow these Palestinians to land on the South African soil. Then, across the Atlantic, Burna Boy stopped his entire concert in Colorado to eject a couple sleeping in the front row. He was performing sick, taking medication, pushing through pain, and seeing two people asleep was the last straw. He kicked them out live on stage and refused to continue until they left. African superstars do not play with disrespect, ladies and gentlemen, especially when they are performing at 50% lung power. But if you thought international drama was heating up, Zimbabwe's football drama said, "Hold my whistle." In Saudi Arabia, Warriors players have revolted against new coach Mario Marinica. They say he insulted players. He called Jalai a dwarf, said Maswanise plays like a granny, mocked Arubi's age, and pushed Chirewa to quit the camp entirely. Now, European-based players are refusing to play under him. Zifa is panicking, considering firing him and trying to assemble an emergency coaching panel. AFCON is months away and our camp is burning like veiled fire with no firefighters. And finally, Croatia secured their World Cup qualification with a comeback against the Faroe Islands. The type of resilience Zimbabwean football dreams of but rarely performs. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight Zimbabwe stands at a crossroad. The army is shifting. The ruling party is rewriting rules. The opposition is fighting itself. Councils are banning sewage tomatoes. Musicians are fighting narratives. Footballers are fighting their coach. And the region is juggling diplomatic disasters. This is not just a news bulletin. This is the full Zimbabwean experience condensed into a single breathless moment. But here is the one constant. Zimwaves TV is the only place where all these stories make sense because we tell them the way Zimbabweans actually live them, raw, bold, sarcastic, and unfiltered. Before you go, don't just watch, participate in this revolution of truth. Hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and share this bulletin like you are leaking classified ZDF succession files. Zimwaves TV, where the news doesn't whisper, it erupts.